Yo, 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 yo. What's up, ladies and gentlemen and ladies? Welcome back to the Uncommon Commentators. Appreciate y'all joining us as always on these Thursday nights. I'm your boy Antoine. This is my man Garrett. Yeah, man, we just got a great show. Great show for y'all tonight. Most definitely, it's one of the best times in the NBA. We're about 25 games in for almost every single team, so really finally getting into the swing of things in terms of the season. But before we break it down, I always had to ask my main man how he's doing. How you been feeling, Garrett? No, we're finally getting close to that Christmas season. It's about December 11th that we're recording this. But how you been? How's your week been so far?
Yeah, man, everything's been good. Just, same old, writing articles and of course watching everything that's going on around the league. I know we had the NBA Cup and this time should be a good show out because we have a lot of, you know, the last four teams are really good teams to
Mhm.
go head to head. So it'd be quite exciting. So I already know who I think is gonna win, but of course we'll get into that later. But everything's been good, man. How's your week been going?
It was great, man. Most definitely just getting some writing done myself. Trying to pump these articles out as soon as possible. Got some features done, and I'm working on
Yeah.
some beats. So always just staying productive in terms of that. But like you mentioned, when you got the NBA Cup is finally here, the real NBA Cup, when they finally head out to Las Vegas. It's always interesting when they do this because obviously there's no NBA team in Las Vegas. This is the only time we really get to see NBA action really take place in Sin City. So I think it's pretty interesting, especially with the four teams we got in these two games coming up. We got the Knicks versus the Magic and the Spurs versus the Thunder. We saw the Magic defeat Miami and the Knicks defeated Toronto, while the Thunder obliterated the Suns and the Spurs defeated the Lakers. So before we even go into these matchups, which matchup do you personally like more, and why?
Excuse me. Well, I think I'll probably say the Knicks versus Orlando. I think that's a matchup that would give more competition, I should say, because
Mhm.
with the Spurs, of course, they're without Wemby at the moment. Now, I'm not saying that the Spurs don't have a chance at all of beating OKC, but knowing OKC's record, and we'll get into to that later. But I think just looking at the matchups here, I think the Magic and the Knicks, that's a more competitive matchup. I will also mention that Franz Wagner is out. I think he had a high ankle sprain, so of course that's going to give the Magic some problems. But I think I think they'll at least put up a fight. So I think that's the best matchup out of the four teams.
Now,
But who
real
knows?
quick, real quick, what if I told you that Wemby might be available on Saturday?
Now if he actually becomes available, then I still have OKC, but I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be a close game because
Yeah,
with
man.
Wemby being out for how long, for weeks, so I'm pretty sure he's trying to get in the habit of easing his way back into the lineup and the other things. So, but that may be something to the Thunder's advantage. But I think the Thunder will beat San Antonio. But if Wemby comes back, I think it'll be a close game. But I still have the Magic and the Knicks. I think that's the more competitive matchup.
I agree, man. And the thing is too, like the scary part is about it is that San Antonio hasn't playing this good without Victor. Like we saw how they absolutely destroyed the Lakers the way that they did. At one point they were up by a 20 plus. And yeah, and like Wiley is right. Indeed, Mitch Johnson did tell ESPN there is very much chance that Wemby does play after dealing with the calf strain. There's been so many players dealing with calf strains, even Giannis who's out right now himself with the calf strain. Honestly like because that's a whole conversation we could have it in so on another podcast one day. But it truly is remarkable to see the spike in injuries, particularly Achilles and calf strains in this modern age of the NBA. But you're right though. I am excited to see Victor come back. The thing is, I do wonder how long it'll take for him to really start really getting back into the swing of things. So how he was before he got injured. He hasn't played since November 14th, where they played against the Golden State Warriors. So It's almost been a full 30 days. It'll be literally right before that, when he does take the floor, versus the Thunder, especially playing a team that has so much momentum like Oklahoma does with their 5 out offense and stuff. But I do want to get back to the Knicks and the Magic, how you said. I guess if we can go ahead and get picks in the NBA Cup, I was leaning New York in this first game. Like you said, they are missing Franz Wagner, unfortunately. And I think New York's honestly been performing at a real high level. They're not up there with Detroit. I do like Detroit does have a ways above them, just a tad bit. I'm seeing that Detroit's 19-5 and like New York 17-7. But I like Jalen Brunson. I think he's been playing amazing. He had like a 20-point first quarter the other night. So I think he's been playing at a superstar level right now. He's only gotten better since coming over to New York. So I'll probably favor Jalen Brunson in New York in that first game. And going into the second one, like how we were just talking about, if Wemby does play, I do think it does level the playing field because they have Dylan Harper back and De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Cass. So all of their pieces, really honestly, and to have Wemby back along with with their ensemble, I think it makes San Antonio really like a strong two. People are high on Houston, but I really kind of favor San Antonio for their youth and their two-way play. And I think they're only going to get better. I think Mitch Johnson has proven himself as a coach since taking over for Greg Popovich. And I think they're only going to get better just getting their youth in the way they execute with their fundamentals. But who are you leaning in the first game and who are you leaning in the second game?
Yeah, I think I have the Knicks beating Orlando and OKC uh beating San Antonio. Now, like I said, I think the Thunder they will win the NBA Cup, but who knows? They could, lose their second game of the season, but they've been on a roll. Uh but yeah, I think it'll come down between the Knicks and the Thunder in the finals. So yeah.
And I guess I should ask you, like, does the NBA Cup, because this is going to be the third time it has happened, the teams get a whole banner and everything when they do win the trophy. It's
Mhm.
on their Wikipedia resume. It's like a whole Hall of Fame achievement and stuff like that. Do you think at a certain point, because of course, like a lot of fans still disrespect it, they still just see it as like a money grab, trying to get players, just to try to light a fire under them at the beginning of the season. Obviously, they have a long season ahead of them and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But do you think like NBA players will go on to really care about the NBA Cup and really try to treat it like it's a real piece of gold? Like franchises really fiending to win the NBA Cup. I guess get off to a real strong start in the season and try to claim that trophy. Like, do you think teams might actually try to compete for it down the line, or do you think it'll never really fulfill the purpose it's supposed to, getting these players to really compete like that at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I think I've always expressed that I don't think the NBA Cup will change much perspective across all teams in both conferences. I think it will matter more to teams that are on the rise, teams that are trying to make a playoff push that
Right.
haven't been to the playoffs for quite some time. I will say that. Now, I'm not saying that teams, because I do think that teams want to compete at the highest level. So it's where, like, hey, if they have a chance to win the NBA Cup, then sure, they're going to compete for it because it's an accolade and it's something to, like you say, it's a banner that you can put, inside the arena. So it's an accolade, but at the same time, I just know for me, I think teams are more interested in getting into the playoffs and making a run for a championship because that's how it's always been. So with the NBA Cup, I don't think that really gets in the way of things. I don't think that's something that would steer the focus of that for most teams. So that's why I say I think it's more important for teams that are trying to put themselves on the map, teams that are who have been out of the playoffs for a long time and they're trying to show the league like, hey, this is a really good team, et cetera. So I think that it only matters to certain teams, but I don't think that it would across other teams, I don't think they would change that perspective that much because like I say, I know for a fact that teams will rather make the playoffs versus winning an NBA Cup championship. And you can say, of course, you can say that, for a championship. So, like I say, I think it's something that's cool, but at the same time, I think it's just teams are worried about other things that's more important to me. So, yeah, I think it's a good accolade. I think only it matters to, a certain amount of teams that are trying to, make themselves, matter and really trying to make themselves competitive. So, like I said, of course we have the Magic and the Knicks in the East and the Thunder and the Spurs in the West. So it's like for OKC, for example, we know they are the reigning champions. So if they win it, it's nothing that doesn't change their goals. They're still going to make another one for another championship. So yeah. So it should be a fun series. So we'll see how it all goes. So yeah, that's just how I look at it. So yeah.
And even then, even just how you said series and stuff like that, do you think they'll ever add any more changes to this? Do you think they'll make certain things like once it hits this deep and they get out to Las Vegas, do you think like they'll make it into like a 3-game series, like anything like that, or like even add like a more money incentive to it, anything like that to try to make it even better like for the fans? Because you look online and like certain fans, they some truly just don't care about it. Like I know like last time we were talking to Wiley about it, of course, and he gave his 2 cents, like after being the NBA veteran that he is. Wiley didn't really think too high of the NBA Cup either. He thinks the players should just naturally have that drive and determination to want to win early in the season and stuff like that. But I guess like my last question to you about it though, do you think there is anything you can add? Not to put you on the spot or anything. It's fine if you can't think of nothing, but do you think there is anything they can add to the NBA Cup to just make it better overall?
I think the NBA. I'll have to be honest. I think they're kind of trying too hard because I know that at the end of the day, everything is about money and all that. But at the same time, I mean, it's like if you're going to make changes, it has to be where it actually makes it better to where it will capture your audience's attention. That's how I look at it. Like for example, with the All-Star format, you have Team USA versus Team World. Now, to me, I think that's a good idea because traditionally it's always been East versus West. Doesn't matter if this player or that player came from a different country or whatever. It's always East versus West. So with this format, I think that's more interesting, and I think that's something that fans will look more forward to. So with the NBA Cup, I mean, you can make changes to it, but my thing is just that I don't think that it would make it much better to where more people would get more involved into it. So that's my whole thing. Because I mean, not only that though, this is like a quick tournament. This is not something that's gonna last for months or whatever. It's only for a month or two, and then somebody's going to win it. So that's why I say I think it will only matter to certain teams that are trying to competitive, that's trying to I guess, like I said, trying to build themselves up from a rebuild or wherever the case may be. So honestly, I don't think there's anything that needs to be done to it because I think where it is right now, I don't think there's nothing you could do that would change someone else's mind. So, like I say, if you're going to add an element to this league or for any league rather from any sport, it really has to be compelling enough to where people are going to like really get into it. And I just don't think this idea for the NBA Cup, I really don't think it's something that's going to make people really get engaged. Now, who knows? It's still fairly new because we're in the 3rd season now. So maybe later, so maybe later on, people may get more into it. I don't think that it should turn into like a playoff series where you're going to 2, 3, 4, 5 games. I don't think it needs to be anything like that because you had the All-Star break after that. So that's why I say the NBA doesn't need to like do too much. So I mean, honestly, I don't think the league needed the NBA Cup to begin with. I do like the idea of being innovative and adding more things, but it has to be the right idea. Don't just throw stuff in there hoping that it works. So, like I said, I think more people, they may get more engaged to it later on down the line, but for right now, they just don't need to do it anymore. So just stick to where it is right now and see where it goes.
Yep, I would love to go last. Wiley, please go ahead and go. Most definitely.
I was gonna say just the whole series thing, no, because either you're gonna have to take a pretty much either you're gonna have to add games to the season, which is what the players don't want to do,
Right.
or you're gonna have to make this like those games have to be within the 82 games of the year. So that's not gonna work.
Right.
The only thing I could see that could possibly really, I don't think it'll be from a fan perspective unless this is more of a global fan perspective, and that's change the location. That's changing the location, leaving Vegas and doing it somewhere else. But I don't see that happening. And when I say changing locations, I mean like going somewhere overseas. So like going to Germany, going to China, going to those hot spots
that'd be a good idea.
That the NBA is actually popping at. That's the only thing I can see that from a fan perspective that may liven it up a little bit. Now it's only going, but that's only going to affect the fan perspective overseas. Well, that's only going to heighten the fan perspective overseas. The fan perspective domestically is going to be different because it's going to be like, well, shit. Now, if I want to go to the NBA Cup, now I got to catch me a flight. I got to get the hotel, get ticket. I got to go through that whole shebang compared to going to Vegas, where you can catch a straight flight to Vegas from damn near anywhere, and you can find a hotel and flight package for Vegas. Like, it's easy. Everything's easier for Vegas, but also we understand that they're trying to build Vegas up, so that's why everything is being held in Vegas. So, but that's my 2 cents on that. Just change the location, but I don't see it happening.
Now, hey, man, that was a great take. Most definitely. Wiley, you actually might come back in a few minutes for the second topic, most definitely. But to give my ending take on it, I like the NBA Cup. I thought it was really cool when Adam Silver first came up with the idea. The Lakers won it the first time around, so they kind of added a little bit to it, seeing how one of the biggest markets won the inaugural championship. And then you saw Milwaukee win it that next year. So, you still got to see a superstar on that stage in that atmosphere having a great performance, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. So I still think that we're witnessing history with it. I do like it. I just think it has to become a real part of the league. Like, once we're 10 years down the road and it's people see that it's still here, people that were skeptical about it at the beginning, when we see that it's still here, that's when I think we're going to see some cool things happen. And I do agree with Riley. We're already seeing them having games in Europe, and during the summer league, sometimes they'll even have the game, some of the teams play like China and stuff like that, like their national teams. So I do eventually think they're going to take it overseas. It's literally called the Emirates NBA Cup. Of course, Emirates is a company, or whatever, but I do think that they might go to the UAE at one point. They've had games in Abu Dhabi before, so I think that's the next step for the NBA Cup. Make it a big spectacle, the spectacle that it's supposed to be, that they're trying to make it to be. And I think having the big game in a stadium, I think that would help out a lot. Like, having both teams be able to pack it out with 72,000, split that down the middle for both franchises. I think that would be really cool, and it would really it would make people excited for it again the next year, to be able to do that again, see what teams could do that, have that whole experience. And I think that's how they would make it better. But I do think it's going to be here, and I do pick Oklahoma to win the entire thing. I do agree with Garrett. I think they're going to beat the Spurs and beat whoever comes out of that Eastern Conference championship. I mean that Eastern Conference game. But it's so funny we say that. I guess Oklahoma is our next topic. They're actually making history this season. Literally one of the best starts in NBA history right now. They're 24-1 as we record this day. Their only loss came to a 2-point defeat at the hands of the Portland Trailblazers. So, I mean, hey, I take about that what you will. I've been high on Denny Avdija. I've always thought he was a great player. But I guess the biggest thing about this now, because obviously we did talk about Oklahoma last show with their draft picks. It's really just more so I wanted to compare this team to those previous teams, those teams being the 96 Bulls and the 2016 Golden State Warriors. Now, of course, the 2016 Warriors unfortunately did not win a championship. That was the year LeBron literally had one of the greatest comebacks in the history of sports, not basketball, when he led the Cavs back. I think they went down 2-0. And the whole thing was that they were down 3-1 and they came back and they beat them. So unfortunately, Steph and the Warriors choked.
Would like to have a word.
Yeah, because they were undefeated and they did lose to the New York Giants. So you are right about that.
No. That's not what I'm talking about. The Patriots would like to have a word, being down 28-3 to Atlanta in the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, true. I mean, hey, yeah, say about that what you will. I mean, genuinely,
I'm sorry, Garrett. That was not necessarily a direct
I mean,
for Atlanta Falcons fans, but hey, here we are.
I mean, hey, like they give us a Thursday night football spot, so we appreciate that for that. Most definitely. But that other team missing is funny. You're funny for that. The 96 Bulls, they did win a championship that year. They went 72-10. And they did bring it home, most definitely. So I guess I just wanted to compare this Oklahoma to these previous teams. I guess like Garrett, reading out this 96 team, you had Randy Brown, you had Judd Butler, Jason Caffey, James Edwards, Jack Haley. Some of these players you might not know, but they did have Ron Harper, whose son is in the league now. Michael Jordan, of course. They had Steve Kerr, who was known for hitting some big shots that year. They had Tony Kukoc, who was amazing, an amazing piece for them. Luke Longley, who him and Michael Jordan had beef at one point. And they had Scottie Pippen, of course, Dennis Rodman, John Sally, Dickie Smuckins, and Bill Wennington. Now, just having Dennis Rodman, Michael Jordan, and Scottie Pippen, by them alone, that was enough just to bring home the championship. But they had a great core, great bench, and a great coach as well, with Phil Jackson, one of the greatest coaches ever. So I guess just looking at that Bulls team, how did you feel about that? Of course, you might not have been around to see them win the championship and stuff, but how do you feel about that Bulls team compared to this Oklahoma team? Like, obviously, like they were a legendary team. They went 72-10. But as of right now, this Oklahoma team, they're on pace to finish like 75-7, like whatever. Like, definitely on pace to break this record. And there's not many teams that might them. I mean, looking at they got San Antonio next. They got the Clippers, the Timberwolves, and the Grizzlies. All these teams they can beat for the most part. So how do you feel about this 96 Bulls team compared to this Thunders team line? Like, it's like, do you think the 96 Bulls team is like head and shoulders above this Thunders team? Or do you think this Thunders team is really like that championship caliber where they can like have that kind of run?
Yeah, I mean, OKC, they're the reigning champions. They're 24-1. So, of course, they have a chance to run it back and get another one. Now, how I compare to them versus the Warriors and the Bulls, I wouldn't say that they are the best team out of three. I wouldn't go that far because, I mean, if we're talking about a playoff series, I think OKC, it wouldn't be a series where they would go 0-4, right? Where they just not going to win a game. Now, I think that they will put up a fight, but I don't think that they're not going to be those teams in the playoff series. Like, I think it could go to like okay, so if they're playing against the Warriors, I think that series could go
That's close.
6 or 7 games. I give it 6 or 7 games. So, but I still have the Warriors coming out on top, during that time. So, and then when you compare it to the Bulls, I think that with that team, I think, of course, I would still have the Bulls beating those teams because I don't think that I don't think those guys will be ready to face a prime, Michael
Michael
Jordan
Jordan,
or a prime Scottie Pippen and a
Scottie
Dennis
Pippen.
Rodman, especially with those guys. And I mean, and also I think in that matchup, it's also more about like which era are we playing in? Are we playing in this era
That's
or
the
are we
biggest thing
playing
about the whole
in
thing.
that
That's the
era?
biggest.
Because even though that I was born in '96, so I wasn't watching TV live, watching these guys play, but just knowing that back in the day, the physicality and the intensity of the game, it was a lot different because the referees they will allow you to get away with a lot of stuff. So I'm not sure if a Chet Holmgren is ready to go up against a Dennis Rodman. I'm not
Dennis
sure if
Rodman.
Jalen Williams ready to go up against a Michael Jordan and all those guys. So I think that the OKC Thunder, I think they would make it a competitive series for both against both of those teams. But no, I don't think they are the best team out of the three. So, but like I
Mhm.
said, OKC, I will say that I think that how they've been able to build themselves up and how their front office has put the team together, I think is magnificent. And I think that in terms of team building and how building through the draft and trading for players rather, I think they're one of the best to do that. I will say that. So yeah, I think that they would make it a tough series for both teams, but I don't think they would be the team to come out and win. So
hmm And I love how you put that because I didn't even get to that part yet. I like that was because because I was gonna try to avoid it, but I feel like you have to address it because that's such like a subjective conversation, with people. I do think that the Thunder in the Warriors series, I think that's razor close. Like having their prime Klay Thompson, Stephen Curry, like Draymond Green, like just in their depth too. Like they had Andre Iguodala on that. Like they had a really good team themselves, and that was
yeah,
pre Kevin Durant, So
yeah.
and then like of course you have this Thunder's team, and like I guess it all comes down to like because I can ask you like is Shea guarding Stephen, and like do you think they could lock down Stephen because that was MVP Steph, but then can Steph
No,
lock down
man. No,
Shea?
man. No, no, no,
I
no,
mean,
no, no,
like
no. You
like
look. I mean, like I said, we can give our props to Shea and Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren and Alex Caruso, but if we're shading back because this is 2025, if we're shading back, almost a decade, and how those
decade.
guys were playing. I'm just saying this. I mean, next year will be a decade, so if we're shedding almost 9 years back. I mean,
Mm,
you're not. I mean, you're not even stopping a Stephen Curry now. Man, he's 36 going on 37. So yeah,
right.
if we're going back during those days, then no. I mean, Shea, he's not stopping a Steph Curry, Jalen Williams, he's not stopping a Clay, and Draymond, he's still going to do what he does. So yeah. So I think the Thunder, they are a great team, of course, and I think that there's more to come. But and even still now, if we're going to sit there and say, well, could they beat a Warriors team or a Bulls team? Like I said, I say now I don't think they could. Now later on down the line, they may show something different, but I'm not counting on it because I just don't think there's no way they're beating those teams 4 out of 7 games. I just don't see
Mhm,
that. So, but like I said, we just have to wait and see. So, yeah.
right. Nah. It was very nicely put. Because like I said, we could literally like talk in circles about that all night. I got actually about Chet Holmgren having to stick Draymond, but Draymond has to stick Chet. Going out there and like
Yeah,
it's
I
definitely
mean, Chet, yeah, I mean, those guys, Draymond and Dennis Rodman, they're gonna put
and Isaiah
Chet on in
Hartenstein
check.
too. Like
Yeah, they're gonna put him in check. So I'm sorry, man.
because like OKC has physicality too with Lou Dort, with Isaiah Hartenstein, and they're young and athletic. So
Yeah,
like yeah,
but I can't put those guys above a Dennis Rodman or Iggy or a Draymond.
no. Okay, yeah,
I
no,
can't do it.
that we do agree.
Yeah, yeah,
That we do agree. I think the Bulls beat either of these teams. and I'm not just saying that to just agree with you. No, like I do think because Michael
I
Jordan,
agree,
that's my
y'all.
greatest of all time, stuff like that.
Yep, I agree.
But yeah,
Yep.
like it's because mainly based off like the superstar talent they had, and like they have the best coach out of all three teams with Phil Jackson. So I don't think either team would have beaten the '96 Bulls. But I mean, of course, like that's because again, like there's some people out there who are watching this, like screaming at like the top of their lungs, saying Oklahoma beats them. But of course, that's a conversation that can literally go on until the end of time. But I will end it with this though, because you were talking about Oklahoma. They're on pace for something, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like if they win like their next like 10 games and they're 34-1, and then they win another 10 and they're 44-1. So I think they're on like a 16 game win streak right now. So at this point, like I said, like in most of these teams, you can really favor them against literally every team in the league. So it's gonna be a while before they lose again. They literally lost to Portland by 2 points. They'd be 25-0 if they like, for real. So it's interesting, but I guess I can just end it with this. I guess honestly, yeah, like do you think any other player on Oklahoma has like an MVP caliber type of level other than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? Like we know that J-Dub is an amazing player. He can average 21, 6, and 6. Chet Holmgren, in my opinion, is having an amazing year right now for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and he's only getting better at this age. So do you think only SGA really has that level, or do you think that another player on OKC could bring home an MVP, seeing how they're going to be at the top of the West for a very, very, very long time?
Yeah, I mean, if we're just talking about this team in particular, I think as long as SGA is we know he's the face of the franchise. So I think as long as SGA is going to be there, he's the only guy that's going to bring in that award. Now, outside of SGA, if we're talking about having the potential of bringing an MVP award between Chet and Jalen, I think it could. I think it could really. I mean, honestly, I think Chet Holmgren will have the more potential because of the fact that I think he has more upside on both ends of the floor. We know that he has the
Right.
ability of killing you inside the paint with his mid range and being able to score on all levels, being able to catch a lob and score the three and score in the mid range, and I think he has a lot of defensive upside as well, being at least 7 foot and being able to block shots at multiple positions. And I think the only thing that's stopping him from taking that next level is his physical profile. I think he's still more on the slim side, and he was like that coming into the league. So I just think that if he's able to put on more weight, similar to how Victor Wembanyama was able to add more muscle, to his game, and you seeing how effective he is now, how dominant he is. So if he's able to put on more weight and more strength, then I think he's going to be a more dangerous player. So at that point, I think that he has the potential to do so. But even then, though, like even if he were to do all those things, I think you have to go to a team to where he's able to get all the shot qualities that he can get. So
Mhm.
it'll be very hard for him to do that when you have SJ, as your teammate.
I
So
know that
yeah.
ain't who I think it is.
Absolutely.
I would just say, just real quick on that, just to kind of piggyback off you, Garrett. Yeah, you won't be able to find that out until one of these guys moves to another team, like James.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like
Yeah. That's what I mean.
because
Yeah.
you're not going to see their, like you said, you're not going to see their full potential because they are wrapped up with this team, with the team concept, but it works. That's the best thing about it.
Yeah.
The way this team is constructed, the way this team is coached, it works. So they don't have to worry about that. They don't have to worry about, well, who's going to be number one. They already have their number one.
Right.
Now,
Yep.
God forbid, but let's say Shai goes down. Now your question is who steps up. So that's going.
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing we haven't seen with them because of course they've been healthy. They've been healthy enough, and they didn't have to worry about it. Even with J-Dub out, they didn't have to worry about it because they have the pieces to backfill his spot, and they, as you can see, they've played like a well-oiled machine, but SGA is the head of the snake. So we until the head of the snake goes down, and we have to see what OKC is made of without SGA. We won't know.
Exactly. Yep.
Right. Yeah, I was curious about that because, of course, I could ask you the easy question about SGA, but it's pretty evident this will not be the only MVP that he wins. I think Shea's gonna win at least like 3 MVPs. He's only 27 right now. Like, he's gonna win at least 2 more. But yeah, I really decided to give Oklahoma their flowers again, having another outstanding season. Because man, I was wondering for a long time, like when that next era or whoever, like in Oklahoma really came in and just eclipsed the entire league in a pretty quick fashion. Like because they got Shea in like 2019, and from then on there they just started drafting the pieces. Like Jalen Williams was like the 12th pick in the draft, so they were just drafting smart, drafting intelligent, just getting the right players. And at this point, like man, like I said, like I like witnessing greatness, so I'm never one to hate or nothing like that. But like it is cool, like to witness another era. Like in my teenage years, it was the Golden State Warriors, most definitely. So now in my adult years, it's the fucking it's the SGA, most definitely. Yeah, again, thank y'all so much for helping out with those topics as always. But we did also want to talk about the draft. We talked about it last week with Oklahoma, how they have like literally 3 first-round picks. But as you all know, me and the boy Garrett are Atlanta natives, and the Atlanta Hawks, by way of the New Orleans Pelicans, they're close to getting the first pick in the draft next summer. The Pelicans are literally the worst team in the league. They're like 3-22 right now, with rumors of blowing the team up. So, I mean, there's literally the sun's not shining in New Orleans anytime soon. And that does benefit us as always. Hey, you can play that sound all you want, but we're cheering like a motherfucker over here. We're happy as hell. Most definitely. And we did want to bring in a draft expert to break down the top 3 picks of this loaded draft class. Really one of the best draft classes I've seen in the last 10 years for certain. And really the top 3 picks of this draft, they could literally all go number 1 overall, depending on who will get first overall pick. And for the Hawks this year, they're in an interesting situation, seeing how their star point guard went down, but they're ironically playing better without them. And we're seeing Johnson from the 4 spot. He's becoming an emerging star, averaging 23 points, 10 rebounds with like 8 assists right now. So there's a slew of players that the Hawks can draft, whether they want to get a power forward, get a point guard and move on from Trey, get a shooting guard and move Dyson to the 1. Like there's a lot that the Hawks could do. And they literally have this draft pick by the blessing of Joe Dumars. So just wanted to bring in, like I said, a draft expert from No Ceilings NBA. His name is Stephen GILLASPIE. Most definitely a great friend of mine, as always. Yeah, welcome to the show, Stephen. First and foremost, how's your day been, man? Thank you for joining us.
Man, Antoine, Garrett, Wiley, thank y'all for inviting me to be here on y'all show. I was listening to y'all chop up about the eras and the teams and all that stuff, and Antoine, you were mentioning how people were screaming at the computer. I had to kind of like tone myself down because I had some takes, but I'm happy to be here and talk about the draft, man. And y'all talking about how y'all are Atlanta natives. I live in Georgia myself. I'm in Southeast Georgia in St. Mary's, last exit off of 95 before you hit Florida. So it's good to be here with a couple of Georgia boys as well.
Mm-hmm. Nah, man, thank you for joining us. And at the end, we can definitely get some of your takes before you leave out. I would love to get your takes. Let's definitely haven't had the chance.
Sounds like I'm a little bit older, so I watch the Bulls a little bit.
So real quick, before we even get to the draft portion of it, let's go ahead and get his takes now. So that way we don't mess up the draft portion of it. We'll
for sure. Most definitely.
Hey, let us know. Get it off. Go ahead, Steven.
All right. So I hear everything y'all are saying, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and let y'all know up front, I am a little bit biased because I do like the Thunder, like as an NBA fan. So take that for what you will. I feel like everything that we're saying right now about the Thunder, we were saying about the Warriors when they were going off, like when they were first rolling out. And there's no way high tempo 3-point shooting team is going to be one of the best teams to ever do it. That they couldn't lace the sneakers of Jordan and the Bulls and stuff like that. But now that we've watched their dynasty come to fruition, we hold them in such higher esteem now than we did whenever they were kind of coming up through the early portions of their dynasty, just like what the Thunder are doing. And
Right.
I think too that like the Thunder, if you look at their roster between all three of those teams, I think they got the deepest roster, right? I think that if you look at a big three kind of component, they have a big three. But if you look at everybody else, like who can't dribble pass on this team right now with the Thunder? Like they can all do it, right? So did Dennis Rodman have to defend out on the perimeter all the time? No way. Like Draymond got to play a lot of small ball center because we saw the name of the game was changing a lot. But what's thriving right now? Big ball, similar to what Jordan's era was going through, right? So the Thunder kind of have this weird dynamic where they're playing high tempo, high pace, offense and defense all the time, because while big ball is kind of coming back into prominence within the NBA, I talked to a bunch of people in the basketball community, and one of the people that I've most recently spoke to is like a skills trainer today, and they said the number one thing that guards have to do in the NBA now is really two things. One, they got to be able to defend full court, and then two, they got to be able to handle the ball against pressure. So I think that lends themselves to being able to play with the Warriors as well. And I think too, just like with like the depth, the fact that they're going to be able to add potentially up to 5 first-round picks this year on top of already having an MVP, an all-NBA player, and an all-defensive player, an emerging sixth man of the year right now with AJ Mitchell, who might go on and be like the lead point guard on an NBA team
Insane.
if like the cap goes the way that it does. They got all defensive players just as role players on this team right now. They're insane, dude. So like I think it's hard because like Steve Kerr on the Bulls, like who in the world is he defending on this team? Like that's where I think the Thunder could really pick them apart. Like I love Tony Kukoc too, but Chet Holmgren is essentially Tony Kukoc, who can also play defense and defend. So he could switch like on any sort of pick and rolls that the Bulls would be able to run out. I think it's an interesting conversation. I just think that the Thunder can do a lot more against those teams than
I get
what-
that you
yeah.
I'm sorry, I get that you pick Steve Kerr, but you also have to remember they had Randy Brown and
That's right.
and Aaron Harper, who were
Nasty.
long. Well, from a defensive standpoint, they were long. Like they were long guards. Like they just look. Of course, when you look at guards in the NBA and you look at their heights, you're like, oh man, he's short. But it's from an NBA standpoint. But then when you actually see them in person or you talk to other players and they're like, yes, this was a long team. And I think that's one of the things that helped the 96 Bulls was because of the fact that that team had so much from a wingspan standpoint that they were able to defend the way that they were, even though again back then the game was completely different than it is now.
For sure. Yeah, but I mean, look at Alex Caruso was defending Nikola Jokic, who everybody says is the best player in the NBA right now. Like Caruso is defending a 7-footer who is like this weird combination of like Larry Bird and Tim Duncan, and Alex Caruso, who is like the 5th, 6th man on this team, is like defending him in the paint. So the Thunder are solid, man. Like I think to y'all's point, and I will agree with you guys, Garrett and Antoine, is that it's a heck of a series regardless. Like if this happens, like we all win, there are no losers in series like this. I just, as a Thunder fan, I had to be like, okay, like let's talk about how some of these matchups could work towards the Thunder's way. So I had to stick up for my guys a little bit.
Yeah.
Nah, man, that was beautifully put. And like that's the thing too, like because it's always comes down to the depth, and then it also comes down to the evolution of the game as well. And like seeing how like it's like how you just said, like the 5th or 6th man can stick that high level of defense. And I think the entire 5 of the Oklahoma City Thunder all have capable defenders. I think Shea is a very underrated perimeter defender, most definitely. We know how good of a defender Lou Dort is. And I think, yeah, like even then with Chet, he's only getting better at moving laterally on the perimeter in terms of trying to guard forwards, even switch off on those guards sometimes when they get hit with those pick and rolls. So I do think they are getting better for sure. And like, I mean, yeah, man, I feel like we could definitely go all night about it. Like, I guess if
There's
I
no
could
way to
ask,
know.
right,
Nah.
right,
There's no way to know.
right, because I mean, I could, because the Warriors, like, you know, they won 3 rings, but they got the assistance of Kevin Durant. Of course, that core did win a championship by themselves, and we saw the Bulls. They achieved their potential. They had a 3-peat. So I guess you really just got to see what happens with Oklahoma, where they got a pretty tight grip on the rest of the league right now, most definitely. But either way, even talking about this draft, and I would love to get your take on who you think Thunder might draft with those picks after the Hawks. But if you were a GM and you did have the number 1 pick in the draft, and you were on Saleh as the GM of the Hawks, who would you personally lean to in that top 3 and why?
Okay, so I have a way that I'm leaning, but I got to ask y'all as being like the Atlanta Hawk experts here on the show. I'm not going to sit here and come on your show and pretend like I know more about what's going on with your team than y'all do, okay? Are we drafting like Trey is still going to be here?
I think so. I 100% think so. Like he has that. He has the player option next year, but I think he's going to pick it up. So I mean, I do think. I think they go into next summer 100% thinking he's going to be on the roster next fall for sure.
Garrett, what about you, man?
Yeah, I think if Atlanta gets number 1, because honestly, Saleh, he's more of a best player available philosophy. So I think if we get the number 1 overall pick in that scenario, I think they would draft Darren Peterson. So I think to answer your question directly, I don't think that they would. So it's like, you pick the best player, then you work out the rest later. So I think if they end up getting Darren Peterson, then I think at that point, I think they would consider moving on from Trey. But then again, if they end up getting a Cam Boozer or a AJ DeBansta or even a Caleb Wilson, then I think those plans change a little bit. So it just depends on where they land. But if they get number 1, then I think they will move on from Trey from that.
Okay, and then let me ask you this too, and I have a reason for this question as well.
Mm-hmm.
What position do you think that y'all need to address the most? And the reason why I ask is because I'm not saying like draft for need as like a, kind of year over year scouting philosophy, but there's a legit 3-headed monster like in contention for the number 1 pick. So again, wanting to ask y'all, like, what area do you think needs to be addressed the most?
Honestly, it has to be the wing position. Honestly, I think for Zachary Richey, who's our starting wing at a 3 spot, I think that there's a lot of layers to peel it back in this regard, because many people thought he was going to take this leap this year because he averaged 12 points per game, a little over 12 points per game in his rookie year, and now he's at 11.1. And many of us thought that he was going to take a bigger leap and where he's going to have more minutes and being able to be more involved into the offense, and that has not panned out well. He's still on a minutes restriction where he's averaging between 18 to 25 minutes per game, and he's not really too involved into the offense. And normally it's where he'll play the first 3 quarters and then he never closes the 4th quarter. So I think that the wing position should be addressed, in my opinion. So if you're able to get a AJ DeBansta or a Cam Boozer, even for Cam Boozer, you're able to play him at the 4 and slide Jalen Johnson at the 3, who's been playing phenomenal this year. So I think he's going to be even more dangerous if he slides to the 3. So I would say the wing position for the most part. So I think that's something that they would need to add if they were to address having a need on the team.
Okay, so I'll put it to y'all like this then. The number 1 player on my board right now is Darren Peterson. I think that he's the best, like the most high-end talent on this team. Now, granted, we haven't really got to see as much as him as we've seen so far between Cam Boozer and AJ DeBansta due to the hamstring injury that he sustained earlier on in the year. But even the first game back coming in off of the hamstring injury, he dropped like 17 points and was hitting like crazy from deep. There's a lot of defense that I like to Darren's game. There's like the connective passing ability. I think that long term, he could even be the lead initiator on a team. And Kansas is really using him in that sort of context now, because if you've watched the Jayhawks without him, it is not a lot of fun watching Jayhawk basketball right now, sans Peterson, because Coach Self is putting him in that role. And I think that was probably a little bit of the discussion as to his commitment to there is like, we're going to get you ready for the next level by having the ball in your hands all the time. We're going to help you to grow to be a better facilitator as well as a scorer, right? So I have him number 1 on my board. But what's interesting about even this whole top 3 discussion right now is the kind of the undercurrent behind the big 3 has been AJ DeBansa and him being a second half of the game kind of scoring talent. He hasn't really shown a lot of passing ability in college to this point, except his last game where that second half he went absolutely nuts. He finished with like 6 assists, and that wasn't truly indicative to his passing ability. There were a lot of play. Like, I don't know what's going on with Richie Saunders this year, because in big games, he's just not connecting from deep. Like, as if people are listening to this and they're looking up college basketball reference and they type in Richie Saunders, they're probably like, hey, Steven, you know that he's shooting like 40% from deep? I would answer yes, but go to the game logs and see how he's performing against the top end talent that he's gone up against this year, and you'll see that he struggled from deep. So you're leaving some assists on the table, so to speak, for AJ DeBansa right now. The defense even hasn't been as great as what he showcased in FIBA play over the summer. So I think that there's a level of defense that AJ can bring as well. He's been consistent on the rebounds this year, and he's been a scorer. The problem is that a lot of the times AJ has these blinders on, so he's not always looking for others. But again, this last game, he kind of reintroduced himself into this top 3 discussion, or kind of made, put Boozer and Peterson on notice by saying, hey, when I'm hitting on all cylinders, like, I look like an NBA star in the making right now. So he's kind of made the discussion hard. And I'll say just 2 for Cam Boozer. There's some weird stuff to his game because he's clearly one of the best high school players to do it. Our guy Corey at No Ceilings puts it great by saying that he's breaking almost every analytical model that you can have when you're looking at, metrics and things like that for a player. Boozer is shattering these things, but he hasn't even necessarily been everything that we would want in terms of like a consistent finisher on the inside. Even as a defender, he's not like an anchor, but I would call him like an elevator of defense. If, you do have your primary kind of big man anchor and you're using Cam on your weak side, you're going to have like a top 5 defense in the NBA whenever he's at kind of like at his peak, right? So it's a tough discussion, but to answer the question for the Atlanta Hawks, like which way would I go? I'm always kind of a proponent of what Garrett had mentioned, like get the best player on your board. I would probably go Darren Peterson just because, listen, from high school, he's added something to his game every year to where he was like a defensive stopper early on, and he still has that to his game as well. He's added as a scorer his senior year, and now we're looking at him growing as a facilitator. And at 6'5", 6'6", with the size that he has, the frame that looks like it's going to support real mature muscle, and just the way that he can process the game as a ball handler and a setup guy, I think that he probably has the best kind of intersection of ready to contribute now as well as a high ceiling.
If you had to compare his ceiling to a player, like what would your player comparison be?
This is good.
Not to put you on the spot.
No, you did, but this is good because this is making me a better scout, like while we're also doing a show together. So I appreciate this. Ugh, man, this also kind of makes for bad podcasting because I'm stalling and I'm trying to come up with an answer for you guys and give you an answer. I'm going to put something out there. It's probably going to make me look stupid, but I'm okay. Nice. I've been married for almost 15 years, so I'm wrong a lot. Oh, man. Who do I go with here? This is good. Let's just have fun. I'm just going to have fun. I'll give him an SGA type ceiling because like SGA, Because SGA wasn't a player that any of us thought coming out of Kentucky was going to
Kentucky.
be what he is now. But if you look at the size, you look at the frame, you look at the processing, the fact that he was a score first, kind of grow into a connector, also with defensive playmaking, flashes, rebounds, good energy guy, teammates love him. I think there are a lot of similarities between the two. I'm obviously not going to sit here and tell you one for one because comparisons never work out this way, right? Look at the conversation about Nate Ament coming out of Tennessee and these crazy Kevin Durant comparisons. And if you watch Nate Ament, you'll quickly find out that he is no Kevin Durant. But I would say ceiling wise, you could see a similar outcome if everything hits right between Darren Peterson and what we've seen so far from SGA.
Right. Hey man, I really appreciate you, like for real, like because I was just really thinking about it myself. I do agree with what Garrett said. If I had to choose where the Hawks see the most improvement, I do think it's on the wing. They still kind of suffer on that perimeter defense, and I really think once they close up that hole, it's gonna be kind of hard to stop the Hawks. Like they're fifth in steals. I think they were 10th in blocks. The last time I checked their stats, that was a couple days ago. In their first in assist, even without Trey. So I think everything's finally coming together for Quinn Snyder's formula. His rotations still are kind of suspect, but I think in terms of his offensive and defensive transition defense, I think just everything is getting better in terms of the Hawks' execution. And they got most of the players signed for the future. So if I had to choose, because man, like I've been watching all these dudes, like even with AJ DeBanza, his last game, he played great. Like he had like 28 points with 9 rebounds and 6 assists. That was against Clemson. And I think Cameron Boozer, he's playing great. He fouled out his last game, but he's playing great too. Like he's averaging like 30 points per game over his last 3 games. So he's been playing phenomenal. It's man, it really is kind of difficult. I guess if I could pick someone, I would honestly go with Cameron so we could move Jalen to the 3 because I think that also does solve our wing issue as well. Putting Jalen at the small forward, having of course, Jalen's a real power forward, but having someone who his natural position is power forward at that 4 spot. Cameron Booster can already shoot threes, so he can spread the floor in a 5-out offense like the Hawks like to do. And Onyeka could fit in that 5 spot. Chris Stops, if he's healthy, can fit in that 5 spot. So I guess for me, because I know there's literally no wrong answer. I'll take all 3 of these players, all 3 of these stars. And that's no exaggeration. But if I had to choose someone, I think I would probably take Cameron just to put Jalen at that 3 spot. And I'm really high on Boozer. But I know you said you want the wing, Garrett. So you like AJ DeBanza thing, Garrett.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with either player, honestly. You can't go wrong with Darren Peterson. You can't go wrong with Boozer. You can't go wrong with DeBansta. And even if you get a Caleb Wilson, you can't go wrong with that at all. So
Nope.
it's a very, very deep draft. So
Caleb.
you can't. So exactly. So you can't go wrong with either or. So, and really, where this team is right now, I think having taken the best player available approach is what's most needed because they're still building. They're still young, and they're still. They have an identity, but they're still, tailoring it to how they're going to be able to compete on a day-to-day basis. So like I said, whoever they pick, if they have a top 4 pick, which most likely I think that they will. So whoever they pick, I think you can't go wrong with that. But I did want to ask Steven this question. It's a 2-part question because I know that you say you are an OKC fan. So we know that they have the Clippers first round pick coming up in this year's draft class. And because they are the second worst team in the West, they are 6-18 at number 14. So it's very possible that they could get a top 4 pick or top 5 pick. So if you were the Thunder's GM and say you get a top 4 pick, who would you pick out of those 4?
Ooh, top 4 for the Thunder. I mean, again, no wrong answer. I think I would go for the Thunder. I think I would go Cam Boozer, and I think him aligned with Chet Holmgren. They could 4 and 5 on the floor at the same time. Both good defenders. Both can make really good passes. I think a lot of people have said that Cam Boozer's defense has gone underrated this season. I think we all have seen that Cam is a really good defender. what I think is the most underrated or underdiscussed aspect of his game is the fact that he can move the ball as good as he is. Like this Duke team just won their first top 10 road win against a top 10 opponent since like 2019 when they beat Michigan State. And this team isn't even good yet. Like obviously they're undefeated, you know what I'm saying? But like they're not as good as what they can be. And it's because Boozer is essentially like their heliocentric. He's essentially like their Nikola Jokic. Like he is passing the ball, he's rebounding, he's scoring from the inside outside, except he at this stage, at this age, he's a better defender than what Nikola was at 18 years old. And that's the other thing too, is like Cam's going to be 18 like throughout the calendar year. It's insane. But I think on the Thunder, I would pick Cam just because you're not worried about him coming in and trying to be like the number one guy on a team, right? He is perfectly, I think he'll be perfectly fine playing off of SGA and J-Dub, helping Chet out on the defensive end. And then again, at the 4-5, you got two guys who can defend at a high level, who can pass at a high level, who are going to set screens and can play the high-low game with one another. Like, you could do literally anything that you want on a basketball court on both sides of the floor, adding Cam Boozer to this team.
Okay, and my last one is that I think that the Clippers absolutely got fleeced with the Paul George trade. So I do have to ask you, how did you feel about that trade back then, and how do you feel about it now?
It's funny because the discussion is obviously they got fleeced because we've seen what happened, but we were talking about the Clippers when that trade happened. How many championships is this team going to win? Is this going to be the next best wing combination that we've seen in the NBA? Like they were supposed to be what the Celtics are, right? Like they were supposed to have the outcome that Tatum and Brown have been having on the East Coast, and obviously it didn't work out that way. And by nature, basketball commentary is so reactionary. You know what I mean? Like now that we have the benefit of seeing like what has happened, obviously it didn't work out the way that the Clippers wanted. But at the time, dude, people thought that the Clippers, there were conversations like, are they going to take over LA? Are they going to be the best team in the West? You know, how many championships teams are they going to win? And no one, right. Yeah. And no one thought that there's no way anyone thought that the Clippers were trading a potential MVP candidate. They thought they were getting rid of a young guy who maybe had some upside, but wasn't going to come back to haunt them the way that SGA has with this Oklahoma City Thunder team.
I know that ain't who I think it is.
I just wanted to piggyback off that real quick, Steven.
Hey, do your thing, brother.
I did not think. So my thing is, it's still the fucking Clippers. They're still like in my lifetime. In my lifetime, the Clippers have not been good. And when I say they have not been good, they have not been good to a point where you thought that they were going to actually win a championship. They've had some runs. You know, when they got Chris Paul and they got Blake Griffin, great times. Even when I'll take it a step back. When they had Darius Mal and Quentin Richardson, fun times. They still sucked. They still fucking suck. The Clippers have not been good my entire life. Outside, like I said, outside of that Chris Paul, Blake Griffin run with that team, the Clippers, they're still the Clippers. That's why I was like, with that trade, I was just like, and then also this is Paul George after he had the broken leg with the Olympic run and all of that. Like, and for him to come back from that was amazing. But then it's like, well, what Paul George are we getting? And then what the hell are the Clippers trying to do here with this team? And it's like, you look at it and it's like, all right, they have pieces, but how are they going to make this work? And then we saw what happened. And then, of course, you know, the rest is history. Yeah. So it was just like, I was never on that Clippers train like that. I believe more in the Chris Paul, Blake Griffin Clippers more than any other Clipper team I've saw in my lifetime. So, yeah, when it came to that trade, I was a little confused at first, but then it was like, well, Sam Presti has been doing this for a good minute here. He knows what's going on. We, like you said, we just didn't know SGA was going to become the SGA that we know of now. That's just like when James Harden left OKC. We didn't know that James Harden was going to be the James Harden that we saw in Houston. Like, he showed glimpses of it in OKC. Yeah. We didn't know he was going to be that. So, but yeah, I just wanted to get my 2 cents in there. Also, I know, well, we're not necessarily pressed for time. I know we mentioned as far as with the draft picks when it comes to Atlanta, you did them if Trae Young was still there. Mm-hmm. Now let's just say Trae Young's not there. Who would you pick then?
Well, so in that case, I still feel good about Peterson being there. Just gathering information from the guys who watch the team a heck of a lot more than I do. I just want to try to make as an informed decision as possible. But kind of just based on still that context, I would still go Peterson. I think my concerns would be like, obviously with Daniels, he's having a great season, but you're not afraid of necessarily drafting over him. And maybe you still get some draft capital if you need to move him, or do you kind of do a 3-guard rotation? We've seen teams have success with that throughout the years as well. Whether or not Trae is there, I would still go Peterson, but I think whether or not Trae is there impacts like the ultimate outcome as to like what type of player is he going to be. Right. Because if Trae is there, then you can have Peterson kind of be this off-guard dynamo that a lot of people thought that he was going to be in this past season at high school. But with Trae, if he's gone, then you have the real opportunity to see exactly what Peterson could be. And the great thing about that too is you're not leaving him on an island. Like sometimes we've seen these heliocentric draft darlings come out and they get thrusted onto a bad team, and it's just them creating for nobody, right? But the good news is that if the Hawks do move Trae, you still have Jalen on this team. You still have the ancillary help between Daniels and Nah on the roster as well to kind of still help him out. So I think it would be interesting to see what his outcome would be like if we could play both timelines at the same time right next to each other to see how he turns out. It would be interesting. But even if Trae is there, I would still go Darren just because he's the best player on my board. But I could see outcomes where you go Debansa on this team if you do have Trae, because the one thing that Debansa is said to still need to work on is that playmaking nature to his game. So you have Trae to be able to kind of take that load off of him, the same with Jalen. But then you let AJ, who is like 6'9", 6'10", like this kid is gigantic out there on the court and loves to get to these like pressure leans, fadeaway shots that he can do in the paint. Wants to get to that mid-range, like these star-level shots. He can do that. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if Trae is on this team. The Hawks want to keep him long-term. If you do go to Bansa, because between the three, I personally think that the ceiling for AJ could be the highest between all three players. And you can't go, like, teams do go shopping for the potential a lot of the times. And between these three, if you feel good about your core and you feel like you have that player developmental staff in place that can get the best out of whoever it is that you're drafting, AJ could very well be the play if you're going to keep Trae Young on the team.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Good question.
I agree, man. I do think if Trae is here, like, because really thinking about what they're going to do, like, I don't know if they just, do they trade him this summer? They would have to let him walk. They're not just going to waive him. So it would have to be in a trade package. Depends on who they would try to get back for him. Some people feel like Trae doesn't have that high a value on the trade market anymore anyway. So I think he's going to stay put. And I think they're going to likely draft. If they do get number one, I think it'd be AJ. I'd want Cameron, but I think they'd go to Bansa. I just feel it for some reason, and that's what all the mock drafts say too.
Look, man, all Atlanta got to do is hit up the Clippers, involve the Clippers in some kind of way. They'll help you out.
There you
Most
go.
definitely,
Yeah.
For sure. But thank you again, Stefan, for joining us, man. Really do appreciate you. You can tell all these great viewers where to find your amazing work at before you leave.
Yeah, and first off, before I do that, Wiley, Antoine, Garrett, I want to thank you guys so much for having me on your show. Anytime y'all want me on, as long as I can make it happen, I'll come back here for whatever y'all need, man. So, if you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter. That's where I'm most active, at Stephen G Hoops, at Stephen with the PH, the letter G Hoops. But please follow No Ceilings before you do anything with just me, right? Go to NoCeilingsNBA.com. That's where we are going to find our big boards, our mock drafts. We do player interview pieces. We go to games and we do live scouting, and we'll kind of come back with our game notes and post those on there. Just anything that you want draft wise, NoCeilingsNBA.com. Go to our YouTube channel, No Ceilings NBA, where we do like player highlights. We do player interviews. We do our podcast shows. We bring on a ton of guests. We do film breakdowns. We do reaction shows after games. So again, whatever you want to see on a video format, No Ceilings NBA. And then if you're a podcast fan, you got a few places now where you can kind of follow us, which has been really cool to see. It's like year 5 for us. So, we have the Ground Floor podcast with No Ceilings, like a collaboration with No Ceilings between us and the folks over at Field of 68. We do a podcast with them. The Locked On Sports Network has the Locked On NBA Draft podcast with No Ceilings. And we do draft covers for the Locked On Podcast Network. And then we also just have our own flagship podcast show where we have like our OG shows we've been doing for the past few seasons. Just a No Ceilings NBA podcast. And this year, something really cool that's been happening with us is like NBA TV has been having us come on and cover like the young players within the NBA. We recently did a show where it was like Corey Tulaba, Tyler Metcalf, and John Fana all did like a breakdown of a game on NBA TV. So you can even hear us on TV sometimes now, which is insane to think that that's where we're at as a collective now. But we appreciate the support of all of y'all. Always appreciate the interest of doing some work with y'all as well, man. So thank y'all so much for having me.
Of course. Absolutely, man. Thank you for joining us. And honestly, before you leave, can you talk about that, like how it feels to finally be on that stage now on NBA TV?
Dude, it's insane. Like, even though personally I haven't been on the show the other day, I say the other day, I think it was like last month. I was just like at my computer doing notes, like watching some synergy film, like on people who probably might not even be drafted. Like, that's how much of a draft sicko I am. Like, I'm watching players who could be like on 2-way contracts and stuff like that. I'm sitting at my computer, I'm taking notes, and my phone starts going off, and I'm looking, and guys are like, my guy Stephen G Hoops getting shout out from Brent Berry on an Amazon game. So I find this clip, and Brent Berry is talking about how he read my Cedric Coward piece on No Ceilings, and that was just insane. It's crazy, dude, because like when I'm not doing podcasts, when I'm not at a gym or anything like that, I have 4 kids. I'm a dad. I've been married. This upcoming March will be 15 years that my wife and I have been married. I have. Thank you.
It's beautiful.
I work in the Navy, you know what I mean? So like I have a real, normal person job, I would say. And the fact that like No Ceilings has continued to get the respect amongst our peers, the love of our ever growing, kind of fan and universe and stuff like that. It's just real humbling, man. And I would encourage anybody who wants to do anything, like, just get out there and try, you know what I mean? 'Cause like 5 years ago, I was in my garage in Bangor, Washington during COVID, and I started a podcast that I was afraid to release to the public because I was afraid of public criticism, and I was reflecting on Mamba mentality, and like, not that I obviously ever knew Kobe Bryant, but I'm like, if I did, what would Kobe Bryant say if he knew that I was afraid to release a podcast for criticism? Like, he kicked my ass, right? So just don't be afraid to like try and get out there and do what you're doing, and y'all keep up what y'all are doing too, man, because you never know where like who's listening and like how far you can go if you just keep pushing.
Yes, sir.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I just definitely had to get that insight before you head out. Thank you again, man. Merry Christmas to you and your beautiful family, as always.
Merry Christmas, family.
Of course, man. And you have a great night, man. Thank you again for joining us, as always.
Always, man. Thank y'all so much for having
Stick
me.
around for me, Stephen.
What's up?
I said stick around for a second if you don't mind.
Oh, yes, sir. I got
Mhm.
you.
And y'all, please don't forget to click on this. Well, not really. More so, scan this barcode in the upper left-hand corner. Go ahead and take you to all of our channels, our YouTube, our Twitter, our everything. Go ahead and keep up with the content of the channel. Always love doing this for you boys, and you girls, of course. And that's it for me, Garrett. Unless you got anything else you wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen, for coming on to the show, man. We'll definitely have you on again for sure. And of course to our guests and everyone who's watching, of course, we always love your support and your time. And be sure to like, subscribe, and share and comment to the show. And as to Antoine said, to be sure to scan the QR code that you see above. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Of course. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
They gave me my theme music.